Have you ever felt like your mind was an endless vortex of thoughts, unable to find a moment of peace? Each day may seem heavier, more confusing, and sometimes even overwhelming. In the modern era, we are constantly bombarded by stimuli, social media, news, work responsibilities, concerns about the future. All of this accumulates like mental noise that saturates us and leaves us exhausted. Even though we are aware of this chaos, we often don't know how to detox our minds and stop overthinking. Today, we will explore 8 simple yet powerful strategies that you can implement in your life to free your mind from the overload of thoughts. Each strategy is inspired by Stoicism, and what makes them so effective is their simplicity. You don't need to make drastic changes in your life. Instead, these are small daily adjustments that will help you, step by step, find inner peace. Let's start with something that seems simple but is often forgotten: living in the present moment. How many times have you found yourself reliving past mistakes or worrying about what could go wrong in the future? This is one of the main reasons why our minds feel so burdened. We spend time ruminating over things we cannot change or fearing the unknown, forgetting the only thing we truly have: the here and now. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." This quote is powerful because it reminds us that the only way to reduce mental overload is to focus on what is happening at this very moment. Overthinking often stems from the tendency to live outside the present, in worlds that don't yet exist or that we can no longer change. How can you apply this strategy in your daily life? Every time you feel your mind wandering toward future worries or past regrets, take a pause. Literally, stop. Take a deep breath and bring your attention back to what you are doing. For example, if you're washing dishes, focus on how the water flows over your hands, the sound it makes, the movement of your fingers. If you're working, concentrate solely on that task, without letting other concerns invade your mind. The wonderful thing about this strategy is that at first, it will require conscious effort, but over time, it will become a habit. Each time you pause and return to the present, you are training your mind not to wander, to focus on what is truly happening here and now. And the most important part is that by being more present, you reduce the number of unnecessary thoughts that saturate your mind. Now let's move on to the second strategy, which is one of my favorites: creating simple routines for your mind. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to get lost in thoughts when there's a lack of organization? It's as if your mind is searching for something to focus on, and when it doesn't find it, it gets stuck in repetitive or useless thoughts. This is where simple routines come into play. It's not about complicating your life with a rigid schedule, but rather about establishing small daily rituals that help keep your mind constructively occupied. The Stoics knew how important it was to have mental discipline. Seneca said, "Order your life. If you cannot, at least order your thoughts." How can you apply this strategy? Imagine starting each day with a small ritual. It can be as simple as dedicating 5 minutes to meditation, writing a few sentences in a journal, or reading a paragraph from a book that inspires you. The important thing is that it's something that not only brings you back to the present, but also gives you a sense of purpose. If you feel overwhelmed by everything you have to do in a day, a Stoic trick is to break down the tasks into small, manageable parts. In this way, you eliminate the feeling of overload that can lead to overthinking. Instead of seeing an endless list of things to do, you focus only on the next immediate action. Don't think you need to schedule your entire day down to the minute. It's not about living like a robot, but about giving your mind a guide, something to lean on to avoid falling into mental disarray caused by a lack of structure. Let's move on to the third strategy, which is extremely relevant in the era we live in: limiting the consumption of useless information. We are surrounded by news, social media, constant notifications, and all of this, even if it seems harmless, is a poison for our minds. Every time you consume information that doesn't bring you anything of value, you are filling your brain with noise, increasing mental load. The Stoics were very aware of the importance of carefully selecting what to focus on. Epictetus summed it up perfectly when he said, "Be sure that you do not attach yourself to things of little importance." And how many insignificant things do we absorb every day? How can you apply this strategy? The first step is to be aware of what you consume. Before opening any social media app or reading a news article, ask yourself, will this bring me value, or is it just a distraction? It's not about living isolated, but about being more selective with the information you let into your mind. You can also set time limits. If you enjoy checking social media, set a specific time to do so, instead of opening them whenever you feel bored or stressed. This small change will greatly reduce mental noise. Opt to consume information that inspires or educates you, rather than being swept up by sensational news or fleeting trends that only create more anxiety. Now let's talk about a strategy that, although it may seem simple, has incredible power: practicing daily gratitude. Gratitude is one of those tools that the Stoics greatly valued because it helps you shift your focus from what you lack to what you already have. When we feel overwhelmed by thoughts, much of that mental noise comes from dissatisfaction, from the constant desire to have more, from the feeling that things are never enough. Seneca said, "It is not the happy man who has much, but the man who knows how to appreciate what he has." How can gratitude help you detox your mind? It's simple. When you focus on what you have, on what is already good in your life, you eliminate the space usually occupied by worries and repetitive thoughts about what you're missing. It's like giving your mind a break from everything negative, training it to see the good, even on the hardest days. How to start this practice? You don't need elaborate rituals. Simply, at the end of each day, take a moment to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as having enjoyed a good meal, having had a pleasant conversation, or something deeper, like your health, or the presence of an important person in your life. The important thing is to give yourself a conscious moment to feel grateful, not just as a thought, but truly experiencing that gratitude. Now let's tackle a slightly deeper and perhaps unexpected strategy: negative visualization. At first glance, it may seem contradictory to think about negative things to stop overthinking, but this is actually a very powerful technique in Stoicism that can help you detox your mind effectively. The Stoics believed that reflecting on possible difficulties and losses you might face wasn't an act of pessimism, but a way to mentally prepare for what life might bring. Marcus Aurelius expressed it this way: begin each day by thinking that you will meet ingratitude, envy, arrogance. How can this help reduce overthinking? Often our minds become overloaded because we are constantly worried about what could go wrong. We ask ourselves, what if I lose this? What if things don't go as I hope? That uncertainty fills us with anxiety. But what the Stoics teach us with negative visualization is that if you consciously think about these scenarios, if you mentally prepare for them, you take away their power to affect you. For example, if you are worried about losing your job or that an important relationship might end, instead of avoiding these thoughts and letting them oppress you, sit down for a moment and visualize the scenario. Imagine it actually happening. What would you do? How would you react? How would you move forward? Let's move on to a strategy with a more external approach, but one that directly impacts your mind: developing a mindset of service. Sometimes we get so caught up in our problems, our goals, and worries that we forget to look outward, to the needs of others. Interestingly, when we start focusing on how we can help others, that mental noise that usually torments us reduces significantly. The Stoics deeply believed in the idea of living for the common good. Marcus Aurelius stated, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." How does this work in practice? When you find yourself on those days when your thoughts overwhelm you, or you feel trapped in your problems, you can take a step back and ask yourself, how can I help someone today? This simple shift in focus is almost like a mental release. By thinking about the well-being of others, you stop obsessing over your worries and begin to see that, often, those concerns lose their importance. It doesn't have to be grand gestures. It could be something simple, like helping a friend with advice, doing a favor for a colleague, or dedicating time to a cause you care about. Developing this mindset of service helps you see the world through different eyes and find a deeper sense of purpose in life. Now let's tackle one of the most liberating and detoxifying strategies for the mind: learning to say no. This little word has incredible power when it comes to reducing stress and mental overload. Often our thoughts spiral because we commit to too many things, feel obligated to say yes to everything, to commitments, extra work, favors for others, and suddenly, we find ourselves trapped in a spiral of obligations that leave us no breathing room. Seneca said, "We cannot do everything, so let us do what truly matters." Learning to say no doesn't mean being selfish or rude. On the contrary, it is a way to protect your mental well-being and ensure that you have enough energy to dedicate to what really matters. How to apply this strategy in your daily life? The next time someone asks you to do something and you feel it will add stress or burden to your life, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this really something I want and can handle? If the answer is no, say it with respect and firmness. You don't need to justify yourself or feel guilty for prioritizing your mental peace. Lastly, we come to a strategy that can radically transform the way you think and live. Stop seeking the approval of others. I know it may seem difficult, especially in an era where it seems everyone is seeking external validation, whether through likes on social media or the approval of colleagues and friends. The truth is, one of the biggest sources of mental noise comes from this constant need to be accepted, to please others. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be prepared to be seen as foolish or even despised." How can you apply this strategy? Start by becoming aware of when you are acting or thinking based on what others want or expect from you. The next time you make a decision, ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want to, or because I want others to approve? If it's the latter, it's a good time to reevaluate and consider what's best for you, not for others. When you stop seeking external approval, something magical happens. You feel freer. You're no longer carrying the weight of others' expectations, and this significantly reduces the number of thoughts and worries that cross your mind. You become more authentic, and paradoxically, the people who truly matter in your life will appreciate you more for being yourself. These 8 Stoic-inspired strategies offer practical tools to detox your mind and stop overthinking. It's not about revolutionizing your life, but integrating small changes that, over time, will have a significant impact on your mental well-being. Remember, inner peace doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on how you choose to react to them. The Stoics teach us that we cannot control events, but we can control our reactions. By applying these strategies, you can experience a calmer mind, greater clarity, and a more balanced life. Are you ready to start this journey toward a freer and more serene mind? Begin integrating these strategies into your daily life today, and watch as, step by step, the mental noise fades away, making room for deep and lasting calm.